You can tell a lot about a person by how they use a clipboard. Some use it to organize. Some use it to help. But people like Karen? They use it to control. Every Tuesday morning, like clockwork, she patrolled Maplewood Lakes with her pink clipboard, her knockoff designer heels, and that smug half-smile that told you she loved catching you out of line. Her tape measure dangled like a sheriff's badge, and her phone was always ready, snapping photos of cracked driveways, off-color mulch, or in my case, cars. 3 of them. Mine, my wife's, and my daughter's. All legally registered, all parked neatly in my own damn driveway. But to Karen, that was a crime worth fining. Last Tuesday, I opened my front door and found the violation tape dead center, bright orange, flapping in the breeze like a threat. I didn't need to read it. I already knew what it said. Immediate fee increase, $500 per month. Violation, excessive vehicles. I stared at it for a second. Then I laughed, just once. Not because it was funny, because I realized she had no idea what she'd just started. Let me rewind. My name's Jason Miller. I've lived in Maplewood Lakes for 8 years with my wife Melissa and our daughter Emma. I run a construction company, the kind that still works with calloused hands and coffee before sunrise. I don't like drama. I don't like attention. I believe in minding my business and expecting the same from others. That's why I hated our HOA. It didn't start this way. When we moved in, the rules were simple, and the board was made up of normal folks just trying to keep things tidy. But then Karen got elected. She didn't just enforce the rules. She weaponized them. She fined a veteran down the street for flying his American flag too low. She made a single mom pay $100 because her mailbox leaned 2 degrees to the left after a windstorm. She forced an elderly couple to repaint their porch because the color clashed with the aesthetic harmony. People grumbled. People paid. And Karen got bolder. The worst part? No one ever stopped her. Not until now. That Tuesday, I stood at my window watching Karen walk past my house for the 3rd time that week. She slowed at my driveway, squinting like she was scouting a military target. Snap, snap, snap. Photos of my work truck, Melissa's SUV, and Emma's new Honda Civic. Honey, Melissa called from the kitchen. You see this? Yeah, I muttered. She's at it again. Should we move Emma's car into the garage? Nope. Our garage was full tools, storage, medical supplies. Karen knew that. We'd explained it at the last meeting. Not that she ever listened. At that meeting, I tried to speak. Calmly. Respectfully. We don't have room in the garage, and we only have 3 vehicles. We've never had complaints from neighbors. I just don't see how this is a problem. Karen didn't even look up from her phone. Rules are rules, Mr. Miller. Perhaps this community isn't the best fit for everyone. It wasn't what she said. It was how she said it. Like she'd already decided I didn't belong here. But here's what Karen didn't know. I've been playing the long game. 5 years ago, I started buying property in Maplewood Lakes. Not in my name, through a holding company I own. At first, it was just smart investment. But as Karen's rule tightened, it became something more. Something personal. I bought up foreclosures. Rentals. The occasional quick sale home from folks tired of her harassment. Different agents. Different LLCs. No one noticed. Last week, I finalized my 30th property. My lawyer sent me the text that morning. Congrats. You now own 67% of the homes in the development. And just like that, I became the majority stakeholder in our HOA. Not that I said anything. Not yet. Because I knew Karen would do what she always did, push it too far. And when she did, I'd be ready. Sure enough, that afternoon, she announced an emergency HOA meeting. Attendance mandatory, the flyer read. New policies will be discussed for repeat violators. Repeat violators? She meant me. I didn't say a word. I just smiled, walked back to my home office, and pulled out the binder I'd been building for half a decade, property deeds, maps, meeting transcripts, complaints from neighbors too scared to speak up. She thought this meeting. The room was already full when I walked in. You could feel the tension in the air, like the moment before a storm hits. Neighbors sat shoulder to shoulder, whispering nervously, clutching printed flyers Karen had stuffed in their mailboxes earlier that morning. Tonight's meeting will determine the future of Maplewood Lakes, it read. Please attend. She made it sound noble, but I knew better. Karen stood at the front of the room like a general before battle. Pink clipboard in hand, hair pulled tight, voice syrupy and fake. Her husband Bob, clearly promoted to unpaid assistant, was fiddling with a projector. I took a seat in the back corner. Quiet. Invisible. Watching. She banged her sparkly gavel. Yes, really, and called the meeting to order. Let's begin with Item 1. Chronic vehicle violations and how they impact property values. The screen behind her lit up with a blown-up photo of my driveway. Snap, snap, snap. 3 pictures of my cars, framed like crime scene evidence. I didn't flinch. Karen clicked to the next slide. As you can see, Mr. Miller's property has effectively become a used car lot. A few gasps, mostly from the usual Karen loyalists up front. The rest of the room just looked confused. Or tired. She launched into a speech about neighborhood aesthetics and resale threats. Then came the proposal, a new bylaw limiting households to 2 vehicles only, with mandatory garage storage. Violation? $750 per month. Karen's voice dripped with righteousness as she held up a thick binder. We've also begun documentation of recurring violators. I personally logged 37 separate instances of excess vehicle presence at Mr. Miller's home. I almost laughed. Excess vehicle presence. That's not a bylaw violation. That's paranoia. But I didn't speak. Not yet. Then something happened Karen didn't expect. Sarah Jenkins, my next-door neighbor, stood up. Karen, come on, she said, loud enough for the room to hear. It's just 3 cars in a driveway. This is absurd. Karen turned, laser-focused. You're out of order, she snapped. You have not been recognized by the chair. That's how she operated. Control the room. Intimidate the voices. Stack the agenda. Bob started handing out printed ballots. Karen was clearly aiming to pass the new bylaw tonight. No discussion. No debate. And that's when I stood up. Calm. Confident. No raised voice. Just steady steps toward the front. Point of order, I said, loud enough to stop the room. Karen froze. Her smile slipped, just a fraction. You're not recognized, Mr. Miller. Actually, I replied, pulling a folder from my coat. Under Section 73 of the HOA bylaws, any property owner may raise a procedural objection before a vote. Silence. I opened the folder and pulled out a large printed map, color-coded, laminated. You see, I continued, over the past 5 years, my firm, Summit Peak Holdings, has acquired a number of properties in Maplewood Lakes. I paused, then looked up at the crowd. As of last week, that number reached 67%. Gasps. Real ones, this time. Karen looked like someone had unplugged her. Bob went pale. I laid the map on the table. Every house I owned was marked in blue. It looked like a wave crashing across the entire neighborhood. And as the majority stakeholder in this HOA, I said, locking eyes with Karen, I'm here to request a pause on all voting activities until we've reviewed a few concerning practices. Phones came out. Neighbors were filming. Whispers spread across the room like a brush fire. Karen reached for her gavel. Dropped it. I moved to the projector and loaded up my own presentation. Because yes, I came prepared. First slide. Karen at 3:12 a.m., measuring my lawn with a ruler. Caught on my security cam. Timestamped. Crystal clear. Second slide. Karen placing a violation on Clara Jensen's door, while Clara was in the hospital recovering from surgery. Third slide. A comparison of 2 houses, mine and her friend Susan's. Same lawn height. Same visible trash bins. 1 fined, 1 untouched. Selective enforcement, I said. And I've got 32 complaints from neighbors backing this up. The murmurs turned into claps. Karen started to speak, but I kept going. I pulled out a thick envelope. These are signed deeds to every home Summit Peak Holdings owns. I'm placing them on record tonight for full transparency. I looked around the room. Enough of this. It's time for a change. Someone from the back yelled. I moved to dissolve the current board. Another neighbor stood. Seconded. Karen finally snapped. This is illegal. You're staging a coup. I smiled. No, Karen. I'm holding an election. She grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. This meeting is adjourned. No, I said, tapping the table of deeds. According to the bylaws, adjournment requires a majority vote. I gestured to the sea of raised hands. You don't have that anymore. Karen stopped mid-step. I expected Karen to be angry. I didn't expect her to go full scorched earth. By the next morning, she had blanketed the neighborhood with flyers. Grainy photos of my work truck, blown-up images of Emma's Honda Civic, and big red letters at the top. Is this the future of Maplewood Lakes? She claimed I was planning to turn the community into a commercial parking lot. Said I was working with a shady developer. Called me a corporate thug hiding behind LLCs. It would have been funny if it wasn't so dangerous. Some neighbors actually believed her. And that was exactly what she wanted. Fear, confusion, paranoia. Karen's favorite tools. That night, my security system pinged at 12:47 a.m. Motion detected. Front yard. I checked the footage. There she was. Karen. Hoodie over her head, phone flashlight on, crouched near my cars, taking close-up pictures of my license plates. The next morning, I was served. She was suing me. The lawsuit was thick, nearly 50 pages, filled with phrases like fraudulent acquisition of voting rights and malicious interference with HOA governance. She'd even requested an emergency court order to freeze my voting rights. I should have been worried. But honestly, I was ready. 3 days later, I walked into court with a stack of folders and a calm smile. Karen arrived with a legal team and a brand-new power suit. She acted confident, waving to a local news crew she had clearly tipped off herself. But what she didn't expect was that I brought one too. Channel 9. Full camera crew. Boom mic tripod. All there to cover the battle for Maplewood Lakes. They mic'd me up outside the courthouse. Mr. Miller, how do you respond to the HOA's accusations? I looked right into the lens. I didn't take over anything. I bought homes. I followed the law. The only thing I'm guilty of is giving this neighborhood its voice back. That clip aired on the evening news. Twice. Inside, the judge, a sharp woman who had clearly dealt with HOA drama before, cut straight to the heart of it. Karen's lawyer painted me as a manipulative businessman, gaming the system to push out a well-meaning community leader. But the second I took the stand, we flipped the narrative. I presented the property deeds. All legal. All public record. I showed meeting minutes where I'd participated via proxies, fair and square. Then came the surveillance footage. Karen measuring my lawn with a ruler at 3:12 a.m. Karen placing notes on neighbors' doors while wearing latex gloves, like she didn't want fingerprints. Karen laughing while pointing at Clara Jensen's flower pots, then saying too cheerful. Gotta go. The courtroom shifted. Then I dropped the big one. HOA financial statements. We showed thousands in miscellaneous landscaping expenses that went straight to her son's company. A $4,200 fence repair bill for a fence behind her house. Over $12,000 labeled as pool renovation, yet the pool still leaked. The judge leaned forward. Karen's smile vanished. But it wasn't over yet. We called in 3 former board members. Under oath, they admitted. Karen bullied them into approving unfair fines. She had suspended voting rights from homeowners she didn't like. She used HOA funds to cover her personal travel costs, including 2 trips to Maui. And then, we played a voice recording. Karen, at a private pool party, saying, "Of course I make up violations. How else are we supposed to keep the wrong kind of people out?" The entire courtroom went silent. Even her lawyer stopped taking notes. The judge's ruling came swift and brutal. The case? Dismissed. My voting rights? Fully legal. The HOA? Ordered to undergo a full financial audit. Karen? Removed from the board immediately. As we walked out of the courthouse, the Channel 9 crew swarmed me again. But I didn't say much. I didn't need to. Karen, red-faced and shaking, stormed off with her phone in hand, already typing what I'm sure would be the next round of victim emails to her shrinking support group. But the truth? She wasn't the victim anymore. She was. The day after the court ruling, I walked my street like it was the first time. Kids were outside again. Basketballs bounced off driveways. A neighbor I hadn't seen smile in months was trimming her hedges, earbuds in, humming like she'd just remembered what peace felt like. Karen was gone. Not physically yet, but the emails had stopped. The clipboard was nowhere in sight. The pink gavel, I imagined, had been tossed in a drawer with the unpaid fines and broken trust. The HOA was mine now, but I didn't want power. I wanted balance. So we rewrote everything. The first thing I did was dissolve the existing board, with the community's blessing. Then, we held a public election. This time, real votes. Anonymous ballots. No intimidation. The results were beautiful. We elected Clara Jensen, 72 years old, flower pot outlaw, who brought cookies to the meeting. Alan Chung, high school science teacher, known for his absurdly perfect garden. Jasmine Reed, single mom of 2, previously fined for sidewalk chalk. Luis Herrera, a veteran who Karen once warned for flying too many flags. And me. No more secret votes. No more anonymous complaints. Every decision would now be posted publicly. Every dollar accounted for. We rewrote the bylaws from scratch. 3 cars in a driveway. Totally fine. Want to paint your door bright yellow? Go for it. Grow vegetables instead of roses? Please do. Basketball hoops, porch swings, wind chimes, holiday lights till February? Yes, 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 and yes. Instead of fining people, we started helping. We used HOA funds to fix the broken swings at the park, pressure wash moldy sidewalks for elderly residents, set up a tool-sharing shed for home projects, offer small maintenance grants for families who needed a hand. Melissa even suggested we build a community garden, right where Karen used to take her evidence photos. We named it Harmony Patch. The irony? Delicious. 3 weeks later, a moving truck appeared in front of Karen's house. She didn't say goodbye. She didn't hold a garage sale. She didn't even wave. But as her luxury SUV pulled away, we all noticed one thing. A neon yellow parking ticket from her new HOA, tucked under her windshield wiper. I don't know what poetic force made that happen, but it felt like justice had a wicked sense of humor. That evening, Emma parked her Civic in the driveway again. Melissa's SUV pulled in next to it. And I, muddy boots, tired hands, no fines, pulled in with my truck and smiled. Above the driveway, we put up a new handmade wooden sign. The community voted on the name. Welcome to Thompson Hills, where good name. The call came on a quiet Tuesday morning. I was in my office, halfway through invoices and coffee that had gone cold an hour earlier, when my phone lit up. Unknown number, Los Angeles, California. I almost declined it, but something told me to pick up. Mr. Miller, a polished voice said. My name's Dana Wexler. I'm a producer with Brightline Media. We saw the Channel 9 segment about your neighborhood, and we'd love to do a full feature. Possibly even a documentary. I leaned back in my chair, blinking. A documentary? About this? They weren't kidding. Apparently, footage from the HOA courtroom battle had made the rounds online. Someone on TikTok had spliced it into a parody courtroom series. It went viral. Then national media picked it up. Suddenly, my small suburban rebellion was a symbol, a warning, and for some a blueprint. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of a camera crew, mic clipped to my flannel shirt, explaining how I turned a toxic HOA into a thriving neighborhood coalition. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I wasn't looking for attention. But if telling my story helped other people fight back against petty tyrants with clipboards and bylaws, then I'd tell it again and again. The special aired on national TV under the title, Home Sweet HOA, How One Man Reclaimed His Neighborhood. That same night, my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a producer. It was a name I hadn't seen in months. Karen. I stared at the screen for a good minute before opening it. Hi, Jason. I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from. But I'm in a new neighborhood now, and, well, let's just say I'm dealing with a different kind of HOA problem. They're worse than I ever was. I was wondering, do you have a few minutes to talk? I had to read it twice. Karen, asking me for help. About her HOA. The irony was so thick, I could have paved a driveway with it. I didn't respond right away. Not because I was angry. Not anymore. I'd already won. But because I wanted to think about what kind of person I wanted to be after the war was over. That night, I walked through the neighborhood. Lights glowed warmly behind windows. Kids played tag near the park. Mrs. Jensen waved from her porch, cup of tea in hand. The garden we planted in Karen's old surveillance spot was blooming. Tomatoes, basil, wildflowers. Someone had added a small wooden sign. Planted with patience. I thought about Karen's message again. And finally, I replied, Sure, I've got time. Let me tell you how we did it. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't humiliating your enemy. It's building something better than